So what is the console? Console basically equals the terminal, at least in common usage. These terms are often used interchangeably. The word terminal is the more common, and I'll mostly be using that one throughout this lesson, but I used console for the purpose of the acronym. A simple description of the terminal is that it is the place in Linux where we enter in our commands. So where do the terms come from? Well, historically, console was used as a keyboard, mouse, and monitor that directly attached to a computer. Terminal, on the other hand, was a separate device that connected remotely and allowed many users to connect at the same time. When we talk about terminal, we're actually talking about a terminal emulator. Modern terminal emulators are software programs that replicate the behavior of those physical terminals. Now that we understand the console and the terminal emulator, let's put this in context by discussing a little more about the concept of Linux as a whole. What is Linux? Many people think of Linux as a full operating system, but strictly speaking, Linux is just the kernel, the core of the system that manages your computer's resources. The full operating system comes together when we add GNU tools, the X11 graphics system, and a desktop environment like GNOME or KDE. When we put those things together, we have a complete operating system with both a graphical user interface and a terminal, also known as the terminal emulator. The GUI is what we see as we navigate the desktop, its files and its folders, clicking, dragging, and dropping and interacting with our mouse. There's a handy acronym for the GUI. It's the word WIMP: Windows, Icons, Menus, and Pointers. We can see the windows here on our Ubuntu system. You can see the icons over to the left. If we right click on the desktop, we can see a menu, and of course we see the pointer or our mouse. Linux also has a terminal, and this is where we enter in our commands. Most Linux distributions have a GUI and a terminal, especially those meant to be used as desktops. Linux servers, however, often have only a terminal for maximum speed, efficiency, and security. So both Windows and Linux have a GUI and a terminal. And while it might be a bit of an oversimplification, we might say that Windows is a GUI system that has a command line, and Linux is a command line system that has a GUI. For Linux, there are different kinds of terminals: GNOME, Xterm, LXtermina, Alacrity, and we could also add console with a K, as well as many other terminal emulators. We can see here in our Ubuntu distribution by clicking on the menu and choosing the About option that we are using the GNOME terminal that comes as default on Ubuntu. Other distributions use different terminals by default, but you can use different terminal emulators on the various Linux distributions. There are a few ways to open the terminal. In Ubuntu, we can click on the terminal right here. I have it in my favorites list. If you don't currently have it in your favorites, as I do, you can also right-click on the desktop and choose Open Terminal here. When the terminal opens, you will see Desktop in the prompt because we have opened it in this location. We can also click on the Apps icon and search for Terminal and open it here. Once the terminal has been opened, you can right-click it and choose Pin for it to be in your favorites from now on. Mine says Unpin because I already have it pinned. So we have seen that there is a kernel, other utilities that together with the kernel make a complete operating system, and which gives us both a GUI and a terminal emulator or console. But inside the terminal, we interact with the shell. The terminal is not the shell. The shell is the program that actually interprets and processes your commands. The terminal is just the window where you type. Popular shells include SH, Bash or the Born Again shell, K shell, Z shell, and Dash. There are many others, but those are some of the more popular ones. We can run the command echo $shell to see which shell we are currently using. We can see here that we have the Bash shell. To see what other shells are available on our system, we can run cat/etc bin/shells, and we can see the list here. There's also ways that we can add other shells if we like. To change shells, we would run the command chsh-s/bin/sh. This is just one example. Now, if we run echo $shell again, we will see that we are still running the bash shell. For our change to take effect, we would have to log out of our system and log back in, and then we would see that the shell has changed.